Welcome to the Quilt Show, everyone. On today's show, we have a TQS favorite back, Miss Lola Jenkins, and today's show is all about portraits. Say cheese! Cheese! Cheese!
And now, your hosts for the Quilt Show, Alex Anderson and Ricky Timms.
Welcome to the Quilt Show, everyone at home. And audience, thank you for coming today.
Wow, I'll tell you guys, you walk in and you see these quilts, it's a little bit inspirational, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, so, do we say it?
Yes.
Lola Jenkins is in the house. Yay!
Now, Lola's been with us before, and that's
Yes.
why we're excited to have her back on the show today, because she is a firecracker.
Oh, yes, she is.
Think of that.
She
Now,
is.
at least that's what she is when I'm off camera. I hope she proves me right when she comes back on camera, because she sure did last time when she was here.
And I've always been attracted to her portraits. So it's just like a perfect morning at TQS.
Yeah, and you're the lady that said, hey, come back because I want to see your portraits and how
Right,
you do it. So you're
right.
responsible for having her back on the show.
But before we get to Lola, Ricky, the thing about your quilts, well, one of the things, I don't want to say the one thing, but things about your quilts that set them apart is the detail. The detail.
I do love detail. I love workmanship, but I think the most important thing of all is intent. That whatever you're doing, if you're trying to be wonky, be intentional wonky, okay?
Yeah.
But don't make it kind of wonky so that we don't know. Make it clearly wonky.
Yes.
And then if you're trying to do finesseful techniques, which is what I'm about to show you, do it the best you can with intent. So I want to call to a picture of Fire Dragon Rhapsody, which is a quilt that now lives at the National Quilt Museum. And I specifically want to point out the purple border, where the border touches the body of the quilt.
Okay.
There is a tiny, tiny fine piping that's going on there. So that is not officially pieced. It's actually appliqued with the piping. And that's what I want to show.
What made you think to do that?
Partly because it was going to be easier to construct.
Oh, really?
Even though it has that little finesseful edge, I didn't have to worry about all those itty bitty curves and the weirdness of the way they fit in. I just simply thought, if I can put this edge on it, and I had been doing that same piping on my bindings, and I knew that was going to happen, so it was going to relate to the binding as well.
Perfect.
Because I've taught piped bindings on the Quilt Show, and this is similar to that, all right? So let's take a look at this particular block right here. I'm not worried about the fact that I've just fused the decoration down on there, because that's just to let you know that it's a block. But it's how I'm going to choose to put this corner on with this ever so slight little tiny piping. That's where we're headed. Okay?
That is really sweet.
Yeah. So I would need to have a template that I would use to cut out the four corners for this particular thing. And the really important thing is that the piping needs to go off the edge of the block. You're not just going to simply go around a shape like this with the piping. You're going to need it to go off of the block.
I'd say that's key.
It's pretty key. So I've used a template and I've cut a 1/4 inch extra out, and so that's the piece that will fit here. So that's easy. We're going to need 4 of those. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to cut 1-inch strips. I prefer these to be straight of grain, not on the bias.
You're kidding me.
Well, the thing is that they're going to turn very easily straight of grain, and they're easier to do what I'm going to do on the machine if it's straight of grain and not on the bias, because it gets a little shifty when it's on the bias.
You should have bet me on that, because you could have won some money right there.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, well. I'll win
Next time.
I will win money somewhere else. So this is going to be pressed, I'm going to say wrong sides together, although I heard once that that's fairly judgmental. We don't want to make the wrong side of the fabric feel bad about itself. But the good side is on the outside. That's what we're looking at.
The side you want to see.
Right. All right. So that's pretty easy to do. You're going to create that as long as you need it to be for your project. And then I'm using number 3 pearl cotton. And I tell people now when I go down this path that if I'm giving you a recipe, all right, I'm giving you a recipe that works. And I know that recipes can be altered. But if you alter the recipe before you use my recipe and it doesn't work, don't blame me.
No boo-hooing.
Okay, yeah. So I'm giving you the recipe. Try it my way with the things that I say. So when I say number 3 pearl cotton, don't try number 5 or number a 7.
Where do you get that?
Well, you can get it from my website because I sell it all the time. But
Okay.
it's just basically it's pearl cotton. So
Okay.
wherever you can find pearl cotton, you can get a number 3 size. That cording is going to be put into the fold of this that we've just created. All right, that's what's going to happen. Now I've got one already situated over here, and I'm going to tell you how I've got the machine set up. I'm going to need that stiletto right there.
I love this stiletto. Show
Yep.
everybody
Well,
over at the machine.
Yeah, I will. I got this in Africa. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
Yeah, I like it a lot. So anyway, so here's the deal. I've put this into the fold of the strip, and I have put on, for Bernina, it's a number 32 foot. But most importantly, regardless of what brand of machine you've got, you want to get the 7 groove pin tucking foot. And you can see that there's 7 little notches in that foot. Well, that's because there's 7 little tunnels going underneath that foot.
Why is it important that it's the 7?
Because it's the right size for the number 3 pearl cotton that I just told you about.
Okay, now we're talking.
So what I've done is I have centered that piping so that it is in the center groove. It's like the cowboy's riding on the saddle, okay? So he's straddling that cording. And if I left my needle in the center position, that needle would penetrate that cord. And I don't want it to because the cord is now in the center. So I have moved my needle position 1, sometimes 2, depends on your machine and how little or how much they move. But the goal is to have the needle stitched just to the right of that piping, all right? So that's what I've got set up here. And you can see that now I'm going to just continue to scratch with my stiletto, making sure that that cording is in the fold, and the foot will take it through. I'm not having to manipulate anything here. It just beautifully goes through, and you can see as it's coming back out the back that I'm creating what I feel is like the world's tiniest piping. All right? I love that. And actually, this gets me in the zone. I love making this piping. All right, so you can see what's coming out the back, right?
Beautiful.
And that's going to be basically a 1/2 inch because my strip was 1 inch and I folded it in half. I don't want a 1/2 inch, I want it to be smaller. So what I've done is I've come in with my ruler now and I've laid this down and I have trimmed it to 1/4 inch.
That is so minute.
It is tiny,
Yeah.
right? Now, I'm going to place it on my block. And in order to do that, I like to use the glue based it. You could use glue stick, but I really find that this is a little bit more finesseful. If I will just, now this is the right side of my fabric I'm looking at here. I'm just going to put the little dots along there just to give me enough to hold this in place. And I'm going to put raw edge to raw edge. So it's facing down. And I don't even mind if I come off the edge because I can trim that off. And I'm simply going to align this right along the edge. Nothing complicated at this point, people, nothing complicated.
So would you say that the curves have to be gentle and not real tight?
They have to be where they're going to bend like this.
Okay.
Okay, so, well, I'll get to that in a minute. I got something I want to say, but I don't want to say it yet. All right? Teasing you, I'm teasing you. All right, so I would, of course, then once I've done this, I usually go over and press it.
Okay.
And then I usually also just trim off.
You want me to press it for
No,
you?
because I don't need to.
All right.
Not today, because this
Look
one's
at
already
that.
done.
Okay.
All right, so once I've got it pressed and it's dried, I'm going to come in with my scissors and I'm just going to notch those curves because this is a fairly tight curve, but now it's going to get pressed. So I come to the iron and I'm going to fold it back so that the only thing showing is the piping.
Oh my goodness, now I see why it was so easier to do on that quilt.
Yeah, because all I had to do was create that border, turn those edges under, and then I didn't have to worry about registration marks or anything. I just had to lay it in place, and just like we did to put this on, I used the glue stick. I will take this. I will use the glue stick. So see, I don't have to cut out a corner here and piece in a little curve.
You're a sneaky man.
I try to be. I tell you guys, I don't do hard things. I don't do difficult things. I want you to think it's difficult, but that's the smoke and mirrors of Ricky Timms, okay? So now I would just come through here. I would glue this down. Again, you can see what's going to happen there. And once I've glued that down, it's not finished because the finish is going to be to come in you can either use an open toe foot and go slowly. I'm going to come right here. You can use the open toe foot and come slowly, matching your thread with the, probably in this case, the golden color.
No wine
and you
drinking
stitch
before
in
that.
the ditch, because you've got a lovely little ditch there that hides all of the magic that's happening.
Right.
And or use what they now call an in the ditch foot. Most machines have an in the ditch foot that has a rudder that cuts right into there and follows in the ditch so that you can stay in there very accurately.
What do you use?
I actually use an edge foot, which is number 10 for Bernina, but it's the same as an in the ditch foot. So that's what I use because I find it just easier for me. It stays in the
Awesome.
ditch. Also, now, where would this be applicable? I've got a couple of blocks for you. This is what you're going to say a while ago. How about the grandmother's fan? Okay, grandmother's fan block, you've got 2 places to put that piping in and not worry about, did that fit in there just right whenever you sew those seams? Another one would be like a New York beauty block. That would be another block that you could do where you could inset these and not only do it easier, but more accurately and adding that spark.
Well, especially like on the New York Beauty, the small inside one, that is hard
And all you have to do,
in.
so it's kind of
Yeah.
applique. It's kind of applique, basically, but it's applique where you're hiding it with the piping, and it works out pretty easy. You like that?
Okay, now.
Okay.
I don't like that. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Well, she is in the house.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
So stick around because up next it's Lola Jenkins. Woo!
So excited to have Lola Jenkins on the show.
know.
You know, every time I go to a quilt show and Lola is around, the room lights up. I'm always smiling. No doubt you're going to do it as well. So please welcome back to the quilt show, Lola Jenkins.
Hey, sweetie.
Hey, girlfriend.
Hey, sweetie.
How are you?
Wonderful.
Oh my gosh, what's been up with you since we last saw you?
Well, I've just been busy. That's all. Just busy.
Yeah?
Doing what I do.
Making your quilts?
That's what I do.
Teaching?
Uh-huh.
Are you writing? Are you making patterns? Are you doing anything like that these days?
You know what? It is on my list to do, and I'm going to have my patterns out. I promise this time. By next year. And my book. I promise.
But it's a lot of work.
Did you do
I know it.
Did you do a fake promise last time?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I promised, but it didn't happen. You know how it goes.
Yes, we do know how it goes. Hey, I want to start looking at the portraits before, and then we'll talk more about how things have changed and evolved in your life since you were before. Okay. Let's talk about Malcolm.
Well, let me tell you, I wanted to capture Malcolm because he's so misunderstood. And I'm thinking, well, I have never done a portrait in negative space. So I decided to see if I can capture his essence in negative space. And that's how Malcolm came up.
Now, describe that to someone that doesn't know what that would mean, negative space.
Well, where the background is basically null and void. It's empty. It doesn't have any design. It's clear. In my case, it's black, but it could have been dark blue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or it could have been dark purple or any color that you want, where whatever you want to show comes forward.
Okay, and then I have a question. Was that kind of built on a black fabric
what I
or was
was
it
wondering.
built on a white fabric?
It was actually built separately and then laid on top of the black fabric.
Okay, so the black is the background.
Yes.
And so it's built separately from
Yes.
that. Oh my gosh, that's fabulous. All right, now the next one we're going to look at is the old lady.
Oh my goodness. You want to talk about that old lady? Let me tell you about that old lady.
I do want to know about that
Let me
old
tell you
lady.
what happened. I got a piece of paper and I drew this oval because I decided I wanted to learn how or just practice quilting that day. And after I got the oval down, I said, well, you know, I don't draw all that good. So I just slapped some eyes on it. And I couldn't figure, I got me a
I just
little.
slapped some eyes
I
on it.
slapped some eyes on her. And then I just drew this little mouth. And I kind of appliqued around because I couldn't figure out how to draw that nose exactly. So I appliqued around to try to make it look like a nose.
So there's not a nose put on there. It's just what resulted from the fabric that you started with. Is that right?
Wasn't that slick?
It is extremely slick.
So here's my question, though. Was that just in your brain, or was that actually a photograph?
It was just in my brain.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh. So I guess you just let the fabric talk to you and it just emerged.
It does. It talks to me and it tells me what it wants to do.
But sorry, I love the smirk on her face. It's like, you're up to something. You're up to something.
It just happened. It
Mal-
wasn't planned.
Was Malcolm in your brain or from a photograph?
Malcolm was from a photograph.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, good. All right, now the next one we're going to look at is Miss Seeley from
Miss
The Color
Seeley.
Purple.
Well, I ran into this lady who has booked me for about 11 years to be a solo show at the library Midwest City in Oklahoma City. And she loves The Color Purple. So she gave me the idea, well, why don't I make a Color Purple series? So I made a series of characters from the movie The Color Purple, and I started with Miss Seeley, and that's how I got started. And this is Miss Seeley.
You should hear the rumbling in the audience out there. They're all just like, oh my God, that looks fabulous.
I know.
It's great. All right, so now we're moving on to the next quilt, which I believe is the Mini
Faces.
Mini Faces, yeah.
Yes. Mini Faces was my play on color. I just wanted to see if I just landed color arbitrarily, not thinking about the color wheel or any of those rules that people set, and just sit it down on anything I wanted to do. And then to try to use the most outrageous color I could in the background, what would happen? That's what happened.
Okay. Now, because I want to see if the audience knows this, have you figured out who that is? Anybody out there got a guess?
Diana Ross.
Diana Ross, you got it, right?
Exactly right.
Fabulous. Oh, I love all those colors.
Well, thank you.
Now, since you were on last, you put it out to the universe because you are a real believer of
I am.
putting out to the universe, and it has worked for you that you would hit every state of the United States,
Yes.
right? To teach and lecture and all that. So
Yes.
how's that going for you?
It's going real well. I believe that I've covered about half. Now, listen. If you're watching this, I'm not going to tell you which half so you can give me a call.
Okay, that's good. That's good. We want you to give Lola a call. Get her to come to your quilt guild. Absolutely. You will enjoy that. Now, there's other things that you're putting out in the universe. I understand there's like your quilts are wanting to get bigger.
Yes.
And this is a story I don't know, so here we go. I'm anxious to hear about it.
Oh, let me tell you. What happened is that I got invited to be the featured artist in Wisconsin at the QUILT Expo.
Which is what Nancy Zeman puts on, right?
Yes, it is. And so prior to that, I had been praying about, I want to go bigger, but my machine, I don't know how to put it under there. I'm not a long armor. I don't want to be a long armor. I need me a long armor. And I've been thinking about this and constantly every day looking because I had already put it in the universe. So this had been going on for about 6 or 8 months. So I get to the QUILT Expo, and I had some free time before I was speaking, and I was walking around looking at the quilt show, and this lady was standing there, and she was looking at quilts. It dropped in my spirit, there's your long armor. So I walked up to her. I said, oh my God, you're my long armor. She says, who are you? I says, I'm Lola Jenkins. She says, oh, okay. She says, I don't do long arm work. I said, you're my long armor. Believe me, you're my long armor.
But she says, I don't do that.
I don't do that.
Oh my gosh.
She says, I do long arm, but I don't long arm for people. I don't do long armor work for people. She says, plus you never see my work. I don't have to. I know. I said, because I was told that you are the lady. I says, what's your name, by the way? And she says, my name is Mary Frances. I says, okay, Mary Frances. And I stabbed her and I hugged her. Well, here's making a long story short. Me and my sister ended up going home with her that night. We stayed with her 2 or 3 days, and she is now going to be my new long armor.
That is putting it out there.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also making it happen, because I think that sometimes people they want things to happen, but they just sit back and wait. And you took some active approach to that.
Now, don't be surprised when we're in that first place winning circle in Houston, Texas, in the future.
I won't be
because it's out there.
surprised. I won't ever be surprised with anything that you do. Let's look at another one of your quilts. This is the little blue boy, I believe.
Yes. The little blue boy, I saw a boy getting on the school bus, and it must have been his first time. It appeared to me. And when he got on that school bus, he put his hand up to the window, and I saw just this little tear, like, do I have to go? And it just captured my imagination. And I took a flash, and I said, I got to go home and make that. And that's how it came about.
So
Did you go home and live with him for 3 nights too?
That was good.
no, I wonder, what makes a good subject or a good image, or what makes a good starting spot for these portraits? Because they are wonderful to look at.
Well, thank you. I think sometimes I do a combination, like I said, of my own drawing and a photograph. But when I look at a photograph and I'm going to use it, I look for expressions on the face. I look for uniqueness of the smile. I also look at the eyes. Are the eyes trying to tell me anything?
How about gestures?
I do look at gestures, especially hand gestures, if they have them out like we do with one of my portraits. So those, is their head tilted?
Okay, sure. What's that saying? A little body language.
And how is the light source coming?
That's all very interesting, and it's very intuitive with you, Lola.
Yes.
I mean, it really is.
Thank you.
I mean, you're going to teach us how you do what you do.
Yes, I am.
And you're going to break it down till it's easy, and it's collaged work.
Yes.
Right? It's collaged work,
Yes.
so you can get in there and make changes and move things around and make it real, just like you did the old lady. It's just like it's just going to come out and it's going to be there. So I can't wait to see how you teach us to do that, and that's all happening, right?
Next segment.
Okay, here we go.
Welcome back. First on deck for you to teach us today are how you do these fantastic portrait quilts.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bang, bang, bang! We're gonna do portraits! I just wanted you guys to have to start all over.
No, we don't have to.
Oh, no, you're not gonna do that, are you?
You asked me.
I told you I wanted to do something crazy, but I didn't think you was gonna put it on camera.
That's how it rolls here. Okay.
Oh,
So, composure. All right. This is a picture of who?
this is a picture of my grandson.
What's his name?
His name is Lance Carlisle.
Okay, Lance, this is for you. I have to tell you, I was looking at it thinking, okay, I don't know who the rappers are and all that, but it's your grandson.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so tell me about the picture that you took of him.
Well, one little Sunday afternoon, I was just playing around with my camera, and we took a picture of Lance. And what I decided to do is to see if Lance's picture would qualify for an excellent portrait.
Okay.
And it did.
Because?
Because the sun was shining, the sun was hitting the picture in the right position.
Uh-huh.
His head was tilted. He just looked good.
Awesome. Okay, but you've manipulated this.
Yes, I did. And that is the key. You go into any type of photo manipulation software in order to make your pattern. And the good news is you do not have to buy a software package anymore. You can get it free online. All you have to do is Google photo manipulation, or you want to turn it into a sketch, and voila, there's a multitude of websites that you can do your photo manipulation in.
So you just start playing with it, and as you manipulate, what are you looking for?
You're actually looking for something that is appealing to you. So if you look at the picture and you want it to have light and dark spots, you want it to have value, and go from there. And all you do is just click, 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 until you get it.
But then are you stuck to this size?
No, you're not.
Okay.
You can make it any size you want, and there's another good thing. There is another website that's called blockposters.com.
B-L-O-C-K.
B-L-O-C-k.
Okay. And
you would print in blocks. So say, for instance, you want, it prints in an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Mm-hmm. A block is that size.
Okay.
So if you want 4 blocks, you'll end up with a picture that is 4 sheets of paper, and you have to tape them together.
And it's free.
Free.
We like that.
And you can go as large as you like.
truly, it's just how much Scotch tape do you have?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
Now, you actually are going to expand this because the bill of his hat's coming off, right?
Yes, so I printed it twice. And you move it over so that the bill of the hat lines up with the other side of his face.
Oh, and you get that in there too, right?
Yes, so you just line it up and tape it down.
And that's what you've done here, right?
This.
Awesome. Okay, so now I've got my portrait. Do I start with the background?
Well, you know where I normally start? I look for the darkest value. So in this particular case, I see the black.
Yes.
The black is the darkest. And of course, all of my portraits are fused.
Okay.
So that's the technique I use. So I make sure, in this case, I will go ahead and use the black.
Okay.
I get a black piece of fabric and I fused it. And of course, I've done that for you today. You can see on the back, there's fusible.
Okay.
I then get a piece of tracing paper. I lay it down, and I trace that particular shape exactly the way it is. Now, you notice in this particular shape, you see a couple of white spots.
Right. So pay attention, right?
Oh, you got to pay very close attention. And those white spots, I call those are highlights.
Uh-huh.
And I just put a little circle around those to make sure that I cut those two circles out.
Okay. And then you just put that on top of the black fabric.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about mirror images or anything.
Nothing.
Nice.
Nothing to remember. Just lay it on top, cut it out, but don't forget to cut out those two holes.
And here you've done it, right? There you go.
Of course.
There you go.
And you end up with this.
All right.
You place it down in the spot, and you're ready. And then I just go ahead, and I go ahead and do all my other black pieces.
Hold on. Do you just leave this? You leave the back?
I've already taken the fusible off of
Okay,
this
gotcha,
piece.
gotcha. So that's what you have going on here.
Yes. So I have all of the black pieces cut out already. I put them all in place. Now I'm ready for my fabric number 2. And I got to make a decision. And that's when I go to my
Stash?
no, actually, I go to the color wheel.
Color, where'd it go?
Well, it kind of disappeared.
There we go. Okay.
Hiding color wheel again. It happens at home all the time.
Where are you? I was just doing it. Okay.
I look at the color wheel and I then examine my pattern. Now, I'm looking again for the next darkest value that's lighter than the black.
But that's kind of modeled too between green and red and black is in
It
there.
is, and I
Okay.
just count it all as one.
All right.
Because it's close, and I don't want to go, those pieces are a little bit too little.
Okay. Okay.
Now, I can pick any color I want. Here, it's burgundy, but I can pick a dark purple, a dark blue, any color that's a dark color that's lighter than.
Whatever's singing to your heart.
Right.
Okay.
But in this particular case, just for you today, I decided to use purple.
Okay. I think that's burgundy.
Okay, burgundy.
At least today.
Yeah, today is burgundy. So we're going to trace that particular shape. Now, a lot of people, and a lot of students, they have a hard time, so I tell them to go ahead and
Define it.
define the shape. I don't necessarily do that, but I tell the students, go ahead and define the shape.
I think that'd be a really good idea if it was your first time.
Yeah.
Your first shot out of the barrel.
Oh, yeah. And you notice, since this piece connects to the black piece, I'm going to leave a little bit so I can tuck it under the black piece.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
So I lay the tracing paper. Now, the important part about the tracing paper is to make sure you get a tracing paper that you can see through real well, because there are some tracing papers that are grainy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So this particular tracing papers are really good.
Art supply store, right?
Yeah, any art supply store will have them.
Okay.
So I trace the shape.
I was wondering if you layered things or if you butted them up. If you butt things up, they can shrink, right? When
That's
you
correct.
fuse? Okay.
So I make sure I have a little bit over so I can tuck it under the black.
Okay.
And then I just, once again, lay
it
this
out.
on top of the,
There you go.
and cut it out, which, hello.
Yeah.
I have a piece already ready that I've
Yeah.
done.
And then you just tuck it under.
I tuck it under in place.
Is the fusy stuff off the back on that one too?
Yes, I've already
Okay.
taken the fusee off.
Okay.
Now, next, I go ahead and I fuse these two pieces together. Now, you know the applique pressing sheet comes in a big sheet.
Right.
Well, I cut mine up. You can see this because I like the small pieces easier to handle.
That's really a good idea.
So I slide it right in. I make sure that
Only that.
only the 2 pieces is on so I won't fuse to the paper.
Okay.
And I lay my iron down and just press those 2, and now I have 2 pieces stitched together.
Okay, so you've looked at this, you've looked at where you want to do the burgundy, and then here, by looking at the shadows and
Right.
stuff, there you go, right?
Right, so I went on along and I cut out all of my burgundies and I put them in and fused them in place.
Is there any reason you wouldn't do this just completely solid across and then just put the letters on top?
I have.
Okay.
You could. That's the wonderful thing about making a portrait quilt. You can come up with and do anything that your mind comes up with. Try it. It might work.
All
but
right.
then again, it might not.
As Ricky said in the first segment, I tell you how I do it. Don't go boo-hoo if you do it your way and it doesn't
I
work.
like that statement too. Okay, 3. This is fabric number 3. Now we're adding the purple fabric. The same process. So you go through, you make sure you put your tracing paper down, trace the shape and put it down, and you put it in place. So I have examples left of all of the rest of the fabrics that I added, and you can show those.
So the main thing is just like make sure that you can see the difference.
That's exactly right.
Oh my gosh, what a fun workshop.
And you can pick any color that you want. It's the value that's important.
Right.
You're going from dark to the lighter than dark, and then lighter than dark.
Just keep peeling it back, right?
Yes.
Look at that. How fun. I think one of the things too with your work is when you're up close to it, it can be a little hard to see. But like on camera here, you can just see it beautifully.
Yes. If you were here, and it's a little misleading because you would look at it and you would say, well, where is the nose?
Right.
I can't see it. But it shows up by itself.
Look at that. That is wonderful.
So you just keep adding the pieces, and this is what you end up with.
And then you decide what you're going to do for your background, right? Okay, Lola, quilting.
Yes.
If you don't have a long arm angel in your life, what do you do when you sit down at the machine?
Well, let me tell you my secret.
Okay.
I think most people overthink it. They think about they want to not cross the line. I think about I want these 2 pieces to stay together.
Stick together.
So I take my quilt, I stick it under the machine, and whatever my mind says, I do.
Look at
it's
him
okay.
over here.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I know.
I love what you're doing. And you're adding all of that quilting to actually even
Stick it together.
Stick it together
Right.
further. And I love that when we look at all of these quilts, the various ways that you quilt them to give them
But
texture.
the old
Well,
lady,
thank you.
you thought a little bit more than that. You'd be telling fibs if you didn't talk to us
It's
about
the
that.
only quilt I ever did any thinking on, and I very seldom show it because I have said that I didn't like it. But today,
Oh my God.
and other people have told me that it looks nice, and I've been hiding her.
No, bring her out of the closet.
She's out now. She's out.
Now listen, I have a couple questions because I was watching this segment, all right?
Okay.
And I need to ask a couple of questions.
Okay.
I'm going all the way back to whenever you said those programs that you can get for free on the internet,
Right,
okay?
you can use free.
What type of a filter or whatever are you looking for? Is it an outline or a posterization? What is that we're looking for?
I'm looking for that posterization now. Most of them, where it is in their program, it's a different location, but it's normally under effects.
And what does that do? It takes the real picture and what makes it chunky or something?
Yeah, well, once you get it, let me show you the.
Go back to zero.
Let me go back to
Yeah,
zero.
go back to 0.
Well, actually, zero's over here.
Okay.
Once you have that picture there, and you find it's either under a sub-menu or it's under its own menu, and it has levers. So if you click on it,
Oh, different levels. So you might say
Right.
5 or 6
6
or
or
8 or 10,
yes, that's
and it'll
correct.
change it. So experiment with that.
Well, yes.
I'm familiar with
Yeah,
that a little
yes.
bit. Okay.
Okay, so if you punch level 4 and you look at it, it'll show 4 different shapes
And maybe
colors
that's
and values.
too chunky. Maybe
Right.
that's not good. So you'd want to
So
pump
it's
it
4
up.
different
That's right.
colorations is what
4
you're
different
saying.
colors.
Okay.
And so this one was 7?
This one is 7.
Okay, gotcha.
And then just the last thing I want to be sure that we talk about. You did it from dark to life. That was
Yes, I
your
did.
method of
Yes.
doing it, and
Yes,
I think
it
that
is.
worked out really well.
Yes.
So now my brain's all screwed
Okay,
back in.
and thank you for
Okay.
saying that because I didn't know that. The other thing I just quickly want to touch on is that quilters stay away from light fabric and that you have to have light fabric.
Yes, you do.
And they say, I can't find it in the quilt shop. Well, you can, and you know where.
I do. Most of, when I teach in classes, most students bring dark and medium because that's the stash. That's just about everybody's stash. And they say, well, I can't find any light fabrics. Well, you can find light batiks, and usually you can find them in 5-inch squares and in 10-inch squares, and that is enough to do a very large portrait. So, and this is what they look like. They're absolutely beautiful. They go in with just about anybody's stash. I can't see where it wouldn't fit in.
Exactly.
So it's a perfect way to get lights into your inventory.
Exactly. So thank you for asking that.
You're
That
welcome.
clarified that. I know you're probably sitting over there, but I got questions here.
Yeah.
Okay, so now Lola doesn't like binding quilts. No, it's not in her vocabulary, but she does know how to finish her quilts quite beautifully, and she will show you that next, right?
Can't wait. Don't go anywhere.
Woohoo!
Thank you, Lola. On the next quilt show, attention all quilters. Marcy Baker is dropping by to teach us a twist on some traditional favorites. You guys want to go home and do this.
Marcy is making, well, not your grandmother's log cabin, plus tumbling blocks and hollow cubes.
Then Alex has some tips for preparing a t-shirt quilt.
The great thing about it is that you can see it, but it's still sheer. We have techniques and tons of fun on the next quilt show.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with the effervescent Lola Jenkins.
Well, thank you.
Now I get to have my bang, bang, bang. Come on, help me out.
Hey!
All right, very good. Bang, bang, bang. Now listen, you do bind quilts.
I do.
In traditional ways. And
course.
I look at these on the wall. They're very traditional bindings. But you told me I just don't like doing it.
No, I hate binding.
So you are going to give us today some alternatives to doing traditional bindings on our quilts.
Yes, I am.
All right. So let's step down here because this is number one. And tell us what you're doing with these trims.
Well, I take trim and I use the trim for my actual binding. I start in a spot and I just find a place kind of in the middle. It doesn't have to be in the middle. You can put it wherever you want. That consistently stay there.
And this is because this particular trim
Yes.
has vertical or horizontal lines. They're just lines
it
that are
does.
running through it. So you're using those lines as a guide for placement.
Yes.
Because it's going to just fold over,
It
right?
just folds over. When I get to the corner, I went all the way around and I pinned these. You can see when I get to the corner, I'm not real fussy about it, but I make sort of a miter corner with it by just bending it over and just pinning it in place.
And of course, I can't get the pins open now, but you're going to need some pins. Don't laugh at me. It happens to you too, just because you can't get the lid off.
Then when I get to the end, traditionally, you do a little bit of measurement. And I do some estimate. I find a good spot that I like.
But it's overlapping.
It overlaps just a little bit, maybe about 1/8 of an inch.
Okay. Only 1/8 of an inch?
That's about all. But this one looks like about 1/4. Okay, 1/4.
Okay, I think a 4 sounds good.
Okay, we'll do a 1/4 today.
All right.
And I pin it in place.
And you need another pin. All right.
And
then-
voila, all I have to do is stick this at the machine and do.
Okay, you sing while you do it, right?
Oh, yeah,
All right.
do.
Sound effects really help. So my question is, do you do like a decorative stitch on that? Do you do just a straight stitch or zigzag? What would you do to finish that up?
Whatever comes to mind at the time. But
There
a
you
decorative
go.
stitch is nice. The machine that I normally use doesn't have a decorative stitch.
Does that
Not
zigzag?
many. It does.
Yeah.
And I do zigzag with it sometimes when I remember. But usually I make my own zigzag and I call it the scribble, Lola scribble or Lola wiggle. And
Does that come with the dance?
I can. I can
Okay, let's go and let's put it out there.
Hey.
I'm with you. All right. Now, first of all, I like the fact, and this is true. I'm not making fun. I love the fact that you think outside of the box, that you realize that what might be whimsical and fun is not a traditional binding.
No.
And this is a way to do that.
Oh, yes.
And I want you to look at this, guys, because I love, first of all, Cameo, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? But now look at this finish. You've used, now this is the white version of the same trim.
Yes.
Okay? And you just folded it over.
Just folded it over.
Just folded it over, got it in place, overlapped it, and then just stitched it down. And because it's all fluffy, the stitching got completely lost and the edge is finished, which is ultimately what you want.
And how this came about is one day I was sitting down thinking, I'm going to challenge myself to be able to do a binding in 2 minutes. This is a 1 and a 45-second binding. It doesn't take 2 minutes.
Well, there you go. 1 minute and 45 seconds in life. You got time to go shopping for more fabric now, right? All right, so let's push this one down because you've got another technique that you're going to share with us. And it involves hammers.
Yes.
Staple guns.
Uh-huh.
All right, show us what we're going to do here.
Well, I made a piece, and we're going to pretend like it's finished.
Looks familiar.
Oh, yeah. We're going to pretend like it's quilted already.
Okay, so it's all sandwiched and quilted and finished being quilted, and you've left a lot of fabric out here on the outside.
Yes, I have. And this is about 2 inches.
Right?
You leave all around the edge, because we're going to...
Oh, well, what do you got underneath it?
I have a canvas that has a hole in it from shipping.
No, yeah. So you didn't buy it this way.
No.
The travel to Colorado to taping created a little damage here. So you wouldn't normally have a hole in the canvas. All right. So we're going to still use this canvas today.
Okay. So you would put it down to the edge as evenly as possible.
And even on the edges here, do you want that?
Yeah, we're going to wrap that onto the side.
He can go around to the side, okay?
And what I do is I pull it real tight, and I'm going to turn this around.
Okay, I'm going to help you hold it because I don't want it to fall off.
Okay. And make sure it's there.
Okay.
And then I just get my staple gun, and I don't try to staple at the top, but more towards the center or towards you.
Okay.
And you push down. Oh, that didn't work.
It went crazy.
We'll try it again. But didn't work again.
Are we out of staples?
Well, we might be. I'm gonna try it one more time.
Let's hope not. Ouch, it's hitting me over here.
Okay, it didn't work, but you got the idea.
But it is a staple gun. What's wrong with this staple gun? There it is.
Oh, is it there?
No.
No.
I don't know. What's wrong with you, staple gun? Well, okay, but it's going to get stapled. Yeah, it's going to get stapled down.
Then I'm going to pull it real taut again, and I'm going to staple this side.
Okay.
Then I make my mitered corners like that, and I pull it over, and I staple each side, and I cut off all of the excess.
So that it looks nice. All right.
It looks really nice.
All right, so let's pretend because we got to.
We gonna pretend.
Yeah. All right.
You get the idea. We love to pretend.
I know. And this is all folded under. I know it is.
Yes, it is.
And now you're just using some finishing board. This is like regular poster board or something?
Yes, this is a regular poster board you can get at any of your art supply stores. And they don't come this size. You have to cut it in order for the size of the canvas that you're using.
Okay. Now here's one that's finished. So I'm going to hold this one up to the camera there. Doesn't that look good? And let me show you the back. Okay, it's finished completely off on the back. And how do you hang it?
Well, you can use any type of fasteners or hangers that you like. They have a multitude of fasteners. And if you could turn this over for me, I could show you.
Okay.
You can put one fastener, which you would apply approximately right here, or you can use 2 fasteners. They even have fasteners now that just glue. And you just put a little glue fastener here and stick it to the wall.
Okay, that's good. That makes it easy. Because, I mean, hanging the quilts are often really part of the challenge.
It is.
All right, now you've just come up with something really innovative we're going to talk about. This is the most unorthodox binding I've ever seen, and actually, I think it's going to look great. So tell me about it.
Okay, well, I call this my button binding. Yes, I use the real buttons. So I buy the buttons already in a package that has an assortment of sizes and colors. You can buy just a packet with just one color, or you can buy a packet that has multiple colors.
Okay, and in this case, you just thought white would be a good
I thought
finish.
white would be good for this.
Okay.
So I then take my buttons and arbitrarily I just place them down. I make sure, like this particular button has 4 holes in it. I make sure wherever the holes are is actually laying on top of the fabric, and I let a portion of the button hang over the edge of the quilt.
Now, I'm just,
I know.
because we've talked. Are you dealing with this guy before the buttons go down?
Yes, I am, and I
Okay.
didn't say that.
All right, so
Here we
let's
go.
talk about that.
Let's get this button off of here and
All right.
start all over there. This is what I do. I take this guy right here, and this is actually fabric paint. I take some fabric paint, just a little bit. I put a little bit on the brush, and the edges of the quilt, I actually paint them with fabric paint. The white portion or the batting.
Okay.
Once the batting is painted and dry, I then lay my buttons out, different sizes in different positions. I don't come up with any formula. I just lay them until they look good to me, and I pin them in place. I then get this E6000 super glue.
Okay. Now what does that do? What is it? It's extra strong?
Yes.
Is it specifically for plastic? I mean,
It's for everything
okay. All right.
in my world.
Okay.
So you get
Bang,
us-
bang, bang.
Yeah. So you get some super glue. You stick your super glue on here, and just stick it down. Pick up your next one, little E6000, put it down. Now, mind you, you could sew down each button
By hand.
if you want to.
But that would not be the Lola Jenkins
But I
way.
will promise you that I will get through first.
A woman after our heart here. I love this.
Okay, it's not done.
Oh, you're kidding
No,
me.
it's not done.
Okay, well, once all of them are E6000 down, you have to let them dry. You turn the quilt over, and you do the same process on the back. Now, here's the key. Your goal is to make sure you put the same size button in the same spot.
See?
And when you do that,
It closes off
it
the
closes the edge,
Look what
and you
she
have a
came up
finished
with.
edge.
Only Lola would do this
Oh, my
and
goodness.
figure it out and give us something
And
new.
if you hold this up, you can see how pretty it looks. So I'm gonna pin this last one
Okay,
back.
yep. I'll hold it up to the camera for you. Oh. And
Look
then,
at that.
I know it's got the pins in it, but that's
Look
gonna
at
that's
that.
gonna be a fun finished project. And the quilt's gorgeous, right? Oh my gosh, you're fabulous.
I like your brain.
Well, thank you.
I like your brain too, because you know what? You just make it work.
Yes.
You just make it work. And I think that so many times we as quilters get so hung up on this is the way it must be.
Right.
Yes,
And
yes.
you give us the freedom and the permission to just
Do whatever you want.
bang, bang, bang.
Hey, one thing I want to bring up, though, too, that I happen to know that you
Okay.
shared with us, and I want you guys all to know. Okay, number one, of course, Lola wants to come to your area. But also, if you have a piece you'd like to commission, she is totally open for that.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
You got a favorite family member or something? Probably even a dog portrait, I bet you
Yes,
do.
I
Cat
do. I do
portrait.
cats and dogs.
And so, of course, it's,
Woof,
you know,
woof.
enter into that whole agreement of doing the consignment or the commission work and,
Right,
and
right.
work it out. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. You
Thank you.
are a delight. You never disappoint.
Well, thank you very much, and I was glad to be here.
Great.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lola Jenkins.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
And you, hey you, from gluing buttons down to little itty bitty piping.
So you could do that piping too because it involves gluing.
That's right.
Okay,
Right around.
everybody, thanks for joining us. And remember, it's a new day every